So I should finish really, to be comprehensive, I should just tell you about some of the rocks that were deposited after the collision. So the post-collision deposits, we mentioned the Sewaliks already, shed from the uprising mountain chain, producing fluvial sandstones on the south side. And then the suture zone, it's a bit more complicated than I said. It's not just all those volcanics. You've got a big basin developed there, rather oddly, right along the line of what is now the Indus River and the Yarlung Tsangpo River sit right above this suture zone, and you've got a thing called the Indus Basin. And it's filled with sandstones which have been deformed because they were filled and deformed as the mountain continued to be active and to grow. We can't talk about post-orogenic deposits because it's still an active orogenic zone. And here's an example. These are the Indus Basin sandstones, nearly vertical, tipped up. Here are Indus Basin sandstones in Mount Kailash, nearly horizontal. And here, a whole series of names for these Indus Basin rocks. And very late Quaternary intramontane alluvial and lacustrine deposits have developed around Kathmandu and around in Kashmir and in here the Takola Graben. These are problematic in Kathmandu because you've got these soft lacustrine deposits and all the buildings have been built on them. And when you have an earthquake, you shake. Those lacustrine deposits, recent deposits, don't make very good foundations. So it's a bit of a problem. The sediment that's being eroded from the mountain chain is transported in some of the great rivers of the world. The Yarlung Tsangpo Brahmaputra. It's got three names because it was thought once that it wasn't all one river. It's on the north side of the mountain chain that cuts through and joins the Brahmaputra. The Indus flows the other way, north up here and then down to Karachi. They shed sediment into the ocean, the Arabian Sea, and the Bengal, the Bay of Bengal. But so let's look at the Bengal fan. It extends here some 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers out into the ocean, and they're transported by turbidity flows. And the flow starts here, and it flows, and it flows, and it flows, and flows. It goes right the way through and builds up this great pile of turbidites on the ocean floor. It's one of the most dramatic sediment piles anywhere in the world, and it's been transported there by the Yarlung Tsangpo River out into the Bengal fan, and also by the Ganges River. And then you've got a comparable thing here, the Indus fan in the Indian Ocean, Arabian Sea. Finally, and it really is finally, why is the Tibet plateau still so high? It ought naturally to have subsided. It's 50 million years old, and yet it's still up there. And this diagram from the Tectonics Observatory from Caltech suggests what happened, that the continental crust from India, under thrusting the mountains and the Tibetan plateau, saw what we call slab break-off. The downgoing plate or slab in the subduction zone has broken off, and it's partly because what you're trying to force down is continental crust, not oceanic crust, and it's relatively light. So you've got break-off there, and you've got under-thrusting of the Tibetan plateau. Now, there's another way of looking at this. You can say the Indian continental crust decouples and splits into an upper and lower lithosphere, and the upper portion is under thrusting the Tibetan plateau, and the lower slab is being subducted. So you've got a normal subduction zone. Only tomography and will sort that out, and I don't think that really we have the answer yet. So I've taken you on a tour, and we started with a view of the mountain chain and the main frontal thrust and the swalix, and we've gone through these Himalayan series rocks. I described them twice, once roughly what they were in historical terms, and then later how they formed in those sandbox diagrams. And then we got to the suture zone, full of compressed, crunched up oceanic material between these two great blocks. The Eurasian block being rather more of a buttress, so that all the crumpling took place in these rocks, which were derived from Gondwana. And then we get to the Tibetan plateau, and it being high, and that's the end. Thank you.